the roll call. Do you have it? Just go through. Two people are missing. We know Dick Beal is excused, and Mike Asharian is in the health center. May I have the approval of the minutes from the last meeting?
I move the approval.
Second? Thank you. So approved. Irwin, financial reports.
Everything is going well with the Treasury of this council, and we've gone through half a year, and we've only spent a third of our budget. And compared to last year, we spent hardly anything at all. So it just goes to show you that activities are opening up, and we're getting back toward normal.
Anything else? Anything else? Okay. Mike Rambaros and Peggy Joyce are away, so Ken Sanders has the pleasure of handling all our questions and our concerns. Good. Thank you, Ken. Yeah. The first thing I'd like to announce, because it's had several questions attached to it, is that dogs are not allowed in any venue that has food in it. Under old business, Ken, would you take the floor for the day? And if we can give you a mic.
Yeah, I have one. I just have to put it on. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Oh, okay. So yeah, Phyllis. So typically, what happens is that Phyllis and the chair and the president and the vice president of the council meets with myself, Mike Rambros, and Peggy Joyce. Usually the Friday before this meeting, we go over a list of questions that come our way. There's old business and new business. And so I will give an update to the old business. Some of the new business items, we wait until the town meeting and then the next resident council as well. I do have some answers for that as well, but that's pretty much how the protocol does work. So Phyllis, you want me to go down the list?
Please.
Okay. So in terms of old business, can everybody hear me okay? I'm getting a little bit of an echo, but I sound good? Okay. So the first item is about the trolley. Everybody, last month there was a lot of discussion about the trolley. And to date, we have not heard an overwhelming need for the trolley, but we are still pursuing options. We do need to balance the need with the safety and the resources for the trolley. So as a reminder, for those who do have a physical need, and that's important, we don't want people not to move throughout our community, to contact Michelle Stockings, and she can work with you on a solution. So the question is, so what have we done since our last meeting? So a few of the residents did forward me a couple of indoor golf carts to review. I did take a look at those. And they do pose some challenges to our existing trolley. So just as a reminder to everybody, this organization cannot have a standard indoor golf cart because it's so wide. And so we've opted with the trolley 10 years ago to go for something smaller and thinner. These devices are not that solid and secure, so it poses some of these safety risks that I've been talking about. So even the ones that were sent to me to take a look at, even though they maybe have been thin enough, there's still some other safety concerns. The step up, for example, is an issue and concern. Residents stepping up on those, and the flimsiness of these type of vehicles, because what happens is when somebody gets on the rear of these vehicles, it starts to flip up a little bit, and that was actually happening with our trolley. It would be flipping up a little bit. So we have looked at some more indoor carts, and we'll continue to look at those, and residents have sent those along. Lynn Hawkins and Robert Schmelzer took a trip to a vehicle facility to evaluate both the indoor and outdoor electric vehicles. Again, the indoor vehicles that they took a look at were too wide for our corridors and our hallway. There is an option, however, for an outdoor vehicle that would work for our community. However, and I understand, and we've heard this when we talk about an outdoor vehicle, we've heard some of the challenges about residents having to wear jackets and all that. And we know that that's an issue that we have to contend with. However, we do believe that an outdoor vehicle could work for our community. However, before we pursue this option, we do need to make sure that we have volunteers on hand to support the program. Because what happens is, once you have a vehicle like this, the need and the want is just overwhelming for a community like ours. So we really would need a volunteer corps to help with the use of an electric vehicle. And if there's any other residents that have any other ideas, please email me, let me know. As I said, we certainly haven't let this thing drop, but I know it's taken some time to take a look at and evaluating this type of program. So please email me with any suggestions above and beyond what we're looking at. So I'll move on, Phyllis.
Please.
Okay, so there was a question about guest rooms, and yes, guest rooms are cleaned before and after each use. We do have a system in place for that. So I know there was a question about cleaning guest rooms, but they are cleaned before and after each guest does use it. Next one. The question has to do with, the question got brought up last month about getting in touch with a community nurse. A resident called, didn't get a voice right away. I'm not sure if they left a message. And so the issue at hand is when to get in touch with a community nurse and how to get in touch with a community nurse. So let me stop right here and say, if you have any type of medical emergency or major medical concern, pressure pendant. That is really critical. That's really important. The community nurse number, there's a nurse that's not always sitting there because they're out and about. So you can leave a message if it's not urgent, and they do periodically throughout the shift, they will check the answer machine, the message. So please leave a message. Mike got up and spoke to this in a larger issue last month, and really talking more of an answering system, an answering wide system. It's too early to give an update on that because it's large and complex right now for our community. But that's what Mike was talking about last time. So I'll leave it at this. If you have an urgent need, pressure pendant. If it's not urgent but you want to see the nurse, leave a message on the answering machine and they will get back in touch with you. Okay, Hampden police officer. So I know at the town meeting we had the Hampden officer was on video and was answering some of the questions. I do know that the audio was a little bit challenging, so we are going to invite the officer back in here, and I'm coordinating that with Phyllis right now for a date for the person to come back and to meet with residents as well. So more to follow on that, but we're hoping in August that we'll get the officer back in here.
Can I interject something there, Ken?
Absolutely.
The Hampton Police Department has hired that particular officer to be their diversity trainer. So he's been hired for specific reasons and to work with the community. And therefore, he's working with us. Thank you, Ken.
Yes, yes. So the other question we had to do with scooter training and evaluation. We do have so when a resident wants to get a scooter or a power wheelchair and they go through their primary doctor, there needs to be a doctor's note. That signals to us that there needs to be an evaluation process, that our rehab department will work with the resident to make sure that fitted right to the appropriate scooter or electric wheelchair, and there'll be education and training done and evaluation done at that point in time. So it's important to know that we do have that process in place. Peggy will certainly can speak more to that, but there is that process in place for that. So if a resident on their own got a scooter or an electric wheelchair, going around and not going through the doctor, then those are the residents that we do need to talk to and get caught up on. And so we are working clearly with the community health services and with the liaison programs to make sure we understand those residents that have scooters and have electric wheelchairs that did not go through getting it through their doctors. So, and Peggy's coordinating all of that.
Thank you. Now into new business.
Oh, well, Phyllis, I had a couple.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're right. I'm on to new business. So you want me to stay up here or you want me to sit down?
I'm just introduce you to that one.
Okay.
Okay, let's stay there. There's been construction work going on throughout the buildings for new apartments. And we've got complaints that some of the dust from the apartments are coming onto the carpet, coating the carpet, and also going into some of the apartments. So we asked that the construction people be asked to hang sheets over the doors. That's not possible?
Yeah, so Chip, what does happen, and when we do construction inside an apartment, there's going to be dust. There are things that are hung over the door. Phyllis, I think from this particular case, because I did some research when you came to me, we also have a lot of wiring going on right now in the corridors. Raphael was overseeing a project, and I think pulling the wires through the corridor has caused some of that dust as well. So I think some of the dust was coming from the work we were doing in the corridors with the Wi-Fi project.
Can we clean it up? Who's ever crossing it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I would just want you to be assured that when we're in the apartment, because I've seen it, Mark's the one that oversees that, and when there's going to be dust, I've seen sheeting outside the doors to protect the corridors from going into the corridors.
Thank you, Ken. And are there any plans? Raphael, would you step up, please? Would you give any plans that you have for camera coverage in the south parking lot?
So good morning. Back in 2016, we upgraded our surveillance system in the community. And that project provided us with a total of 27 external facing cameras and 25 internal cameras. So we do feel that there's an appropriate level of coverage, if you will, throughout the community. There are very few areas outside that don't have coverage. For example, we do have coverage in the parking areas, the walkways, the parking lots, the entrances, the exterior portions of the building, and so on. Now, I will say that the system, the system's not designed for someone, one of our staff members, to sit and monitor the cameras 24/7. We don't have that capacity, so typically we utilize the system for an investigation after an incident, because we have the ability to retain camera footage for up to 45 to 60 days. So I do feel with the 27 external cameras and the 25 internal that we are covered. And I would also add that from time to time the cameras do go down. Weather, rain, snow, all of these things affect systems. So we do find that from time to time. Mainly the external cameras do go down. And then we work with our vendors, our partners to restore that footage. Any other questions, Ms. Medvedev, regarding the camera system?
Any questions from the council? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I had thought that perhaps Karen Lushings would come to the meeting today to address us, but it seems it's much more appropriate for her to address everybody at the town committee meeting. So please make sure that you go to the town committee meeting, as you always should anyway. We have a plea for everybody, PLEA. Lynn Hawkins, who has long held the office of Secretary of the Health Services Committee, needs to be replaced. This, by the way, is one of the most important and interesting committees that we have here at Whitney Center. Please call Roz Lefker and let her know you are interested. Thank you very much for giving this your utmost consideration. Are there any questions from resident council members? Any questions from people in the audience, our residents? Chris, for anything. pertaining to Whitney Center.
I just
you, Al.
wanted to alert everyone to the fact that we've taken down the bird feeders because we have a request from Connecticut Audubon, and also DEEP has now requested us to take down the bird feeders and not feed the birds because there's a pathogen, some kind of disease in the mid-Atlantic states that they're afraid will move up into Connecticut. They're not exactly sure at this time what has caused it. They have theories that it may have been because the cicadas were sprayed and then the birds ate the cicadas, and they acquired this toxin. They have a crusty eye, and then they have neurological problems, and then they die. That's what happens with the birds. There have been some birds in Connecticut that have died recently, and they have not actually done an autopsy to determine if that's the cause. And a couple were found in the dog run here at Whitney Center. So don't pick up any dead birds. There may be some contaminant on them. And if you have to pick them up with a glove and throw them in the trash. But until we know further, we will not be feeding the birds.
Chris, what do those letters stand for that you said? Those letters, what is it?
Okay. Protection, yeah. Right. I'll follow up on that. Why is birdseed a problem?
It's not really the bird seed. It's a number of birds that might have this contaminant going to the same feeder, basically, and then eating there, and then they think spreading it. And it's just really a precaution. That's all they're doing at this time.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else have a question? Was that Judy?
Yes, hello. I was asking about the key cards. When I moved in several years ago, I got 2 key cards. Then the locks changed, and suddenly I only have 1. I have needed 2 forever, 1 in my purse, one hanging on the door that I can take down for all that's happening here. And we always had 2. I think husbands and wives would think they would need 2. But anyway, George Zemko and I talked this over, and he was coming up, and he was going to present this, and I was going to second him. So I'm saying that I think that there is no reason why we shouldn't have 2, and it occurs. I know that the barcode on the back doesn't work, but I mentioned this to Kelly, who was in security, and she said that'll cost you $25. And it doesn't seem fair to me to be charging $25 for something that we've had for years, and suddenly with a new then they stop allowing us to have 2 key cards. So
Perhaps Ralph's gonna.
Sure. That's okay. I'll address it. So you could have a second key card, right?
I can't, but
You can.
pay $25.
Right. So,
I don't think I
so we've always had this ancillary fee for additional key cards from day one that you moved in. We have found that I did about a 10-year look back on our accounting system, and we actually never billed anyone other than 17 residents for key cards. So though we told you that you had to pay for the card, you likely were never charged. So if you want an additional card, we'll make an additional card. If you've already paid, we have the ability to look that up, and we won't charge you for a second card or a third card. If you did not pay, then we will charge you. And the reason is we're not making a profit, we're not doing this to make money. It actually costs us $20 to make 1 key card. It's an RFID chip style card. The cards cost us $7 a piece. And when you factor in the 45 minutes in labor and time of our staff to make the card, we came up with a reasonable fee of $25. But you can have as many cards as you like. You can have cards for family, whomever you want access to the apartment to. So we'll look at your particular situation, and if in fact you want a second card and you did pay for it, we will replace it. We'll give you a second one at no cost.
Any other questions, Ralph, on that? Any other questions from the residents? I'm sorry, Marvin.
Why is there only one salt shaker in the entire?
Wait a second. What was your question?
Why is there only one salt shaker in the entire bistro?
There's more than one, Marvin. Well,
Finally found somewhere.
Esther, would you like to answer that?
I will answer that. I will take this up with Thomas Hudson if you feel that there isn't. You know, sometimes when you're setting a table up, I've had a time when I didn't have the dessert spoon, you know, the head of my dish, or this wasn't right and that wasn't right. I think it was an accident. I think that it was someone who didn't supervise the table before people entered. And that's important because when there's someone there that's supervising the tables, then these glitches don't happen as often. Thank you for bringing that up. And so I wanted to respond to you. I called you back after the last meeting, right, about reservations. And is it working better now? Okay.
Good. Thank you, Esther. I'm sorry.
I greatly miss the trips that have been planned for us in the past. And now that things are opening up for museums and other theaters, places of that nature, I would like to know what is being planned for us. I've been here 6.5 years, and I've gone on several really good trips, and I really miss that. We did have a meeting planned, a group of people who were interested in sharing our ideas about trips. That was about 3 weeks ago, and it was canceled, and I wondered what the status of that is.
Ken, could you answer that, please?
So, Mrs. Krevlin, I certainly appreciate the question. And something like this weighs on me, quite frankly. However, you know, as this community we shut down and now we're reopening. And we are looking at our resources as we're reopening. And Maria Frater and her team is the one involved with planning events and programs, also managing and overseeing transportation and the spa and salon and the reception desk. So I have to balance the time and energy that somebody like Maria, what she's putting her time and energy into. And I told her right now, focus on internal programs, which she has. She's put a spectacular concert series together. We do need to reevaluate our whole trip and transportation program. You're spot on. That is one of my top things that I'm thinking about right now. In fact, I have a meeting next week with a couple of members from Resident Council to talk about this a little bit further, because it does weigh on me. In the interim, though, we did have another resident that wanted a trip, and she planned it, and we helped coordinate the transportation. So in the interim, if there's something pressing for a resident here and they want to do something, let Maria Frater know, and we'll work with you to coordinate that specific trip. We will do that, and we just did that not too long ago. So it is something that it weighs on me, and we'll take a look at. as a community. So I will be back in touch and give a more thoughtful and more detailed response back. But your question, I hear your question.
Evelyn, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Good, thank you very much. Thank you, Ken. Before I came down, my telephone rang, and it was Phil Ashkenazi. He had planned to come to the meeting, but found that he couldn't, but he had two very important things to bring up. And Ken, I'll ask you to react to them, and I know that you will immediately. One was he wants to institute, or not institute, create here at Whitney Center a $20 per hour wage for every employee. You may want to address that. Minimum.
Yeah, so this is something clearly, I think I had mentioned previous to this, how management works with the council. This is the resident council. When new ideas do get brought up, we typically don't respond immediately because that's a big question.
It's a very big question.
So, and I can appreciate from his perspective of raising that. At this time, I'm not going to certainly respond to that, but what I will do clearly is pass this along to Mike Rambrose. Mike Rambrose. So I'm not going to respond immediately to that, Phyllis, but I will take the question further on.
And he also would like to know how much an increase would cost Whitney Center. I tell him neither one will be available at this point.
How much would if there was a mini $20?
What would the increase of salary mean totally to Whitney Center in their budget?
Yeah.
Well, would everybody escalate higher because of it? You know, I mean, he's not asking the question.
Well, so what typically happens when you do a wage increase is wage compression. So when you raise somebody to $20 an hour, that's making $18 an hour, and somebody just worked here, and you can't just bring everybody to 20. There needs to be, So there's wage compression in there. But I heard it, and I will certainly bring that information to Mike and let him know that this was raised at the resident council. And I know Mike, and he will certainly address it probably at the town meeting.
There's one part of his request that I said we could not honor. He wanted a vote on this today. And the second part of his question, and we've already gone over this, but I want to give it up because this is the time for residents' questions. He would like to reinstitute the trolley until we have a replacement. He'd like a vote on that also. Ken?
That was the first part of my report.
I know.
With respect to Dr. Ashkenazi, that was the first part of my report, and I'll go back to this. If somebody has a true physical need that they cannot get from point A to point B, we want to know, and we will find a solution for you right now. So that would be my answer.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I'd like to remind everyone that we have no Residents' Council meeting in August. The next council meeting is September 13th, after you all had a very nice rest of the summer. And the next town committee meeting is July 22nd at 10:30. Ken, I'm sorry, is that going to be live or?
So Mike put a memo out. Did you all get that memo? He put a memo out a couple of weeks ago talking about town meetings and reevaluating how we're going to be moving forward. So the July 1 is...
No.
You didn't get a memo? Okay, then that memo will go out probably tomorrow or the next day. I'll take a look at that.
So what will it say?
So the July 1 is virtual, so it will not be live. So what everybody needs to do, any questions that you want us to answer, please send along to myself, to Janet Fowler, Maria Frater, and we will make sure that your questions are addressed. And we'll get information out on that as well.
Thank you.
Gus.
Gus.
It's my understanding that this facility will be undergoing renovation through September. Is that right? So we wouldn't be meeting here September 13th.
This has already gotten it on
The,
construction, I think.
right, so the cultural arts will be installing the hearing aid loop so that content that is spoken over microphones or movies, if your hearing aid is T-coil compatible, you will pick up that feed. That's why we're doing this. But that project does involve the removal of this carpet, installing the new technology, and then replacing this carpet. We're looking at likely closing down this space on August 2nd and reopening on September 13th, because it will take us that long. Multiple vendors have a role. And we will be putting out a communication regarding that schedule.
Thank you. If we have to relocate, I'll notify you, but I believe Gus is correct in that thing. Carol.
When you go out for laying new carpet or materials like that, do you go out for competitive bidding?
I would add that.
I know you're not special projects.
Well, we don't. I'm sure Mark does, because I know firsthand that, at least from my knowledge, 2 vendors came out to look at the site. I don't know how many others looked at it. And we took it a step further and recognizing that the community that we live in, we wanted to be careful on the pattern that we chose. So we deliberately took a lot of time on speaking with professionals in the carpeting space as to what might create a problem with folks with cognitive decline or dementia, because we understand some of the patterns don't lend to that condition. So we took all that into account and we came up with a very simple pattern. Hopefully you'll like it. But to answer your initial question, I'm sure you had multiple vendors here. I know of 2 that came out, but I don't know how many in total.
Any other questions?
There obviously was no resident group involved in the choice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is it already selected, Ref?
Pardon me?
Is it already selected?
Yes, the
Okay.
carpet is selected. There was a 10-week lead time on ordering, and we just got it.
Okay, thank you.
You said until the 13th of September, when?
Right, so we're going to get a memo out. We literally just on Friday finally agreed to this project schedule. We are getting a memo together. We recognize that there are events going on in this space. We are looking to relocate some of those to the commons and other areas that could accommodate those types of programs. Specifically, I know there's concerts, but we're not going to cancel the programming. We're just going to relocate.
Any other questions? May I have a motion to adjourn? I don't hear, I'm sorry. Thank you. Second? Meeting is adjourned, and thank you all for coming. Thank you.